The average weight of the limestone blocks used in the Great Pyramid of Giza's construction is estimated to be about 2.5 tons each. However, the weight of each of these stones can vary considerably. Some of the larger granite stones found in the King's Chamber are estimated to weigh in at as much as 50 to 80 tons each. The logistics of construction at the Giza site are an extremely complex equation. The Great Pyramid is aligned with incredible precision to the cardinal points of the compass. The base of the pyramid alone covers 13.1 acres. Its north-south axis is aligned to within 0.05 degrees of true north-south. The difference from one corner of the pyramid to another over its entire 13.1 acre base is less than an inch. This is comparable to the accuracy attainable utilizing laser leveling on a structure built in 2500 BC. In order to build a Great Pyramid in a time frame of 20 years, which is the time designated by most archaeologists claiming it would take to do so, translates to human workers setting a massive stone weighing in at 3,000 pounds, 1,360 kilos, every 3 minutes and 30 seconds, with the precision to achieve the tolerances discussed earlier. One has to logically think, how would this massive task be possible with what we know from archaeological science, in that ancient Egyptians had no pulleys, no wheels, and no iron tools of any kind.
Only as Area 51. There, in the vicinity of the dry bed of Groom Lake, this complex reportedly operates day and night, seen by countless witnesses and photographed time and again. And if the rumors about it are true, this installation is the hiding place of one of the most amazing secret projects of this or any other century. And clearly there are secrets of some kind in this mysterious complex, because according to official government maps of the region, the entire installation simply does not exist. Why is this desert base such a secret? Is the truth about its purpose related to the continual sightings in the area of UFOs?
After the Lazar story broke, the UFO watchers came here and discovered this land. They came here in four-wheel drives to overlook this secret base.
In a recent interview, Robert Lazar claimed he was employed between 1988 and 1989 as a research specialist at a hidden base even more secret than the Groom Lake installation.
When I went to work, I was flown from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas to Area 51. From Area 51, I was bused to an even more highly secure facility located about 15 miles south of Area 51 called S4. S4 is situated at the base of the Papoose Mountains by the Papoose Dry Lake bed. The S4 installation is built into the mountain, and the 9 hangar doors are angled at about 60 degrees. These doors are covered with a sand-textured coating to blend in with the side of the mountain and the desert floor.
According to Bob Lazar, it was in this hidden base that he worked on disc-shaped flying craft that were based on technology given to mankind by beings from another planet.
Not only did I read briefings, and not only was I taught the theories of these technologies, but they were demonstrated for me, and I know they are true and accurate.
Lazar went on to claim that there are several fully working flying discs at the S4 facility, but only one on which he personally worked.
Because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model. The Sport Model is about 16 feet tall and 40 feet in diameter. The center level of this disc also houses the control consoles and seats, both of which were too small and too low to the floor to be functional for adult human beings.
If the story Lazar tells is true, then this design is no mere fantasy, but a reality, and proof positive that Earth has been visited by intelligent beings from another planet. Could the U.S. government actually have one or more UFOs in their possession and kept such a secret from the public and the press for almost 50 years? And if the story has already been told, why is the government still taking such extraordinary measures to try and keep the base hidden? According to this research by the Salt Lake Tribune in September of 1993, Air Force Secretary Sheila Whitnow requested control over nearly 4,000 acres of publicly owned land out in the Nevada desert in the Nellis Range complex. Glenn Campbell has dedicated the last few years to breaking the wall of secrecy around Area 51 and the mysterious base at Groom Lake.
Area 51 is a small block of land that is simply the best known of the secret areas of the Nellis Air Force Range complex. Behind that, we have vast areas of desert. Until the early 1980s, it was actually possible to drive up to the Groom dry lake bed and look across and see the base in the distance. It was a secret base, but an open secret. In the mid-1980s, the military seized an entire mountain range, the Groom mountain range, to keep Soviet spies from looking down on this base. At that point, the base became non-existent. It disappeared from USGS maps, and ever since then, the government has refused to refer to the base in any manner or form.
Whatever may be happening at Area 51, it seems certain that the high security is not to keep people from wandering into some area where they could be hurt. It is designed specifically to protect whoever or whatever is inside the complex at Groom Lake.
What's going on here?
I'm sorry, the road's blocked. Let's move it on, please.
Isn't this public land?
Could you please move on?
They're prepared to use whatever force necessary to keep the people as far away as possible from this area.
Norio Hayakawa says he has witnessed firsthand the aggressive security measures at Area 51.
In 1991, I led an investigative group from Southern California, including some journalists, to this area. And after we witnessed what I believe was some type of a test flight or possibly a maneuvering of these objects, I was leading a caravan of 7 cars on this dirt road. Suddenly, a black military helicopter with no insignia came over and approached our cars, came in front of our cars, almost about 10 to 15 feet above our cars. At no time were we trespassing the military area. We were well away from the military zone, and we were on public land. We had every right to be on public land, but yet we were harassed.
For 40 years, it has been the location of choice for testing black projects. The most secret projects in the world that our military is looking into, that's where they go. I mean, it's perfect for that. It's ringed by mountains. It's in the middle of nowhere. It has, I'm told, surface-to-air missiles in case planes fly over that aren't welcome there. It has motion detectors in the ground. It has ammonia detectors that can sense the smell of ammonia in human skin. It has surveillance cameras to see who's looking down on the base. So it is an extremely secure location.
Of course, these kinds of security measures have been taken in the past around top-secret military installations. Could it be the next generation of high-tech weaponry is currently being tested? Particle beams, high-powered lasers, or space weapons? Or could it be something else entirely?
Many of us have devoted a lot of time and energy to research on what's going on at Area 51, but no question in my mind that a new type of technology is being developed. We have seen aircraft over there at Area 51 above the Groom Mountains that definitely resemble what's known as flying discs or flying saucers.
Hundreds of UFO watchers regularly drive out into the Nevada desert, across public land, and make their way up to the top of Whiteside Mountain or Freedom Ridge to try and catch a glimpse of what they believe to be a captured vehicle from another world.
In one of our expeditions to Area 51, one of our members succeeded in taking a rather remarkable footage of what appears to be a disc-shaped object over Groom Lake itself. It didn't behave like any conventional aircraft I've ever seen, no sound whatsoever. But the remarkable thing is that in other occasions, we have seen the zigzag maneuvering of this type of aircraft, sometimes almost a 75-degree turn and sudden descension and ascension.
Could this really be a vehicle from another planet that fell into human hands?
A consistent story that comes up from a lot of workers is that a craft was brought here around 1953, and that actual live aliens were brought here about that same time.
Well, the Russians have been taking pictures of Area 51 for many years. Stalin had an intense interest in UFOs, and one of the things he wanted to know about was Roswell. And the conclusion they came up with was something really did crash there, that it wasn't a weather balloon, and it wasn't anything of earthly origin. They didn't know exactly where it came from, but they knew it wasn't ours and it wasn't theirs. And this was something that was of monumental importance that needed to be studied.
Of course, these claims are still nothing more than hearsay and rumor without more evidence to support them. Does such proof exist?
All the stories that float around this place are as much a mystery to workers as they are to us.
Where exactly did these stories of captured UFOs at Area 51 originate?
The folks who run Area 51 won't admit that it exists. There was a federal lawsuit that was just tossed out a few days ago in which they just wanted to know the name of the base, and they fought it tooth and nail, and now don't have to reveal the name of it.
If you work in a secret area like this, you come to work on jets from Las Vegas with the window shades down. Upon arrival at Groom Lake, you are bussed in buses with blacked out windows directly to your workplace. You see nothing more than the hangar or the few buildings that you happen to work in.
That's the interesting dichotomy. The Russians can fly over it and take pictures, but we, the people who put the bills for the place, aren't supposed to know about it.
In 1988, a Russian satellite took a remarkable photograph over Area 51. Notice the object highlighted at the end of the runway. It's positioned at the same position as if it were about to take off.
As unusual as the object in the photograph may be, it is hardly proof of a captured alien technology. Where is the real proof of these astounding claims?
Bob Lazar paints a scenario where the craft has an anti-gravity reactor or a gravity reactor that produces a wave of gravity to counteract Earth's. If you're inside this craft, it has no seatbelts because to you inside the craft, it is always upright at natural gravity.
If true, Robert Lazar's claim that he worked on a full-scale flying version of this craft could well be the most important news story of the century. But what about the story behind this supposedly alien technology? How did it come to be in human hands? According to Lazar, during his stay at Area 51 and S4, he was given information which, if true, would constitute undeniable evidence of intelligent life on other planets. In Lazar's video interview, he claims that while at the super-secret S4 facility, he was shown official briefing documents stating that the beings who gave us the secrets of the flying saucer came from the Zeta Reticuli system, 35 light-years from Earth.
The beings are 3 to 4 feet tall and weigh 25 to 50 pounds. They have grayish skin and large heads with almond-shaped wraparound eyes. These beings said that they had been visiting Earth for a long time and presented photographic evidence which they contended was over 10,000 years old. There was an exchange of hardware and information in Central Nevada until 1979, at which time there was a conflict which brought the program to an abrupt halt.
Despite this supposed rift between humans and aliens, the beings from Zeta Reticuli allegedly left behind enough material for the scientists at S4 to piece together much of the technology for making a flying saucer fly. And presumably, it is that same flying saucer technology that is being routinely tested at Area 51. Is this the secret the military is so eager to protect at Area 51? Perhaps the tight security around the testing site is well warranted, because according to Lazar, this alien technology represents a force many times greater than our most powerful atomic bomb. Lazar says he witnessed the operation of the ship's power source and that it made use of the enormous energy made possible by antimatter. And according to Lazar, one matter-antimatter weapon could easily destroy all of human civilization. Lazar also claims that using this energy as a power source makes the craft impossible to detect.
The disk can't be seen from any vantage point, and for all practical purposes is invisible. All you could see would be the sky surrounding it.
Assuming for a moment that all of this is true, what exact purpose could the military have in mind for this new technology? Norio Hayakawa says he believes these new advances will not be used for the common good of all humankind.
You can rest assured that this technology, one way or the other, is going to be used for some type of military activity. This could be used for a large-scale, unprecedented type of war we have ever seen.
According to Hayakawa, the secret installations at Area 51 and S4 are not the only places our government is experimenting with super advanced technology.
These are photos of a secret California facility conducted by Lockheed Corporation. There are several secret air bases in Southern California where they are testing the parts to build some of these this craft objects. And the strange thing about these facilities is that you don't see any aircraft on the runway, no aircraft whatsoever. When this facility was under construction, people near the area have seen rows and rows of cement trucks almost 24 hours a day for several weeks at a time, indicating that a large underground complex was being constructed.
I was fortunate enough to interview people who constructed the underground facility at Area 51. There's research laboratories and things like that under the desert floor, and then the surface was restored to look like it did before.
According to Hayakawa, the security around this facility is as strict as that surrounding Area 51, and the sheer size of both facilities is truly staggering. Even if some secret project of gigantic proportions really is going underground in California and Nevada, does that mean the technology is being developed for hostile purposes?
To be honest with you, I would not be surprised that some abductees are taken to some U.S. underground facilities. And if that is indeed the case, there again, we're dealing with a criminal case here that involves total violation of our constitutional system.
Can these stories actually be true? Have UFO abductees been brought by force to Area 51? Is there any evidence to support these frightening claims? In Robert Lazar's video, he claims that the S4 facility near Area 51 is hidden inside a mountain in southern Nevada with 9 giant hangar doors textured to blend in with the surroundings. Incredibly, this matches the description given by some people who claim to have been kidnapped by the occupants of a UFO and then taken to a mysterious underground facility.
Abductees have been taken to places that they have assumed were underground facilities. Abductees have also reported that they have seen what appeared to be U.S. military people involved in their abduction.
And yet, there are also those who believe that the military is developing this technology for the protection of the human race from an alien invasion.
I don't think the government or the military believes that we face a major threat from anybody on this planet, that our greatest threat literally comes from someplace out of this world.
Others believe the government is only interested in protecting itself.
They started infiltrating UFO organizations. They spied on UFO researchers. They put out false information to muddy the waters. They actively encouraged this laughter curtain, a policy of ridicule that anyone who sees a UFO is crazy. Well, anyone who sees a UFO is not crazy. That's just the prism through which we view this now. The government's done a very good job of disinformation, of clouding the whole issue.
It's an underground military presence that is vast. Friends of mine who've been in it have said that it's literally a 40-story building buried underground.
For whatever reason, the military continues its effort to gain control over the only 2 visual access areas to Groom Lake. The public demand for an explanation to the mystery of Area 51 is growing every day.
If UFOs are real, the government has perhaps a legitimate interest in avoiding panic and making sure that society does not overreact to this situation. Purportedly, UFOs have been known to the government since the 40s and 50s. During that time, there was a lot of hysteria about communism, about world affairs. If you were to introduce UFOs at that time, perhaps there would be mass hysteria. Perhaps there would be a shaking of the foundations of our society.
So much of what has been said about Area 51 and secret installations is, after all, little more than hearsay. Is there any real proof? Any indisputable evidence that alien technology is being tested and used at Area 51? Could it be that locked deep beneath the desert floor, there is an alien spacecraft? Is it possible that behind the tightest ring of security in our history, there actually exists proof positive of life on other worlds? And if that proof is there, it brings up another, even more profound question. Would the world be better off if that startling disclosure were reserved for some future chapter?
The pyramids of Egypt have been the objects of mystery and controversy for thousands of years. Scholars, ancient and modern, have argued over how they were built, why they were built, and who built them.
The traditional view is that the pyramids were built by Egyptians of the 4th dynasty, around 2500 BC, as burial tombs for the pharaohs of that period. But is that view sustainable in light of what we know today? Many experts insist the ancient Egyptians could not have built these marvelous structures, and if they didn't, shouldn't we learn who built them and why?
Archaeologists have told us for decades now that many of the Egyptians of 4,000 years ago worshipped the sun and believed in fantastic beings who came down from the sky to bring knowledge and wisdom to mankind. Is this a clue to the real origin of the pyramids? Do recent discoveries on other planets tell us more about the pyramids of Egypt? Is it possible that these structures were constructed by the same architects?
Could the true nature of the pyramids hold the answer to the mysteries of mankind's existence on Earth?
All of these questions are mere speculation without more evidence that the pyramids are anything more than what they appear to be. 3 gigantic piles of carved stones on the edge of the desert at Giza.
The largest has been attributed to the pharaoh Cheops, but it is more widely known as simply the Great Pyramid. Many scientists agree that physically, mathematically, and scientifically, the Great Pyramid of Khufu could not have been built. And yet, there it is, 42 stories high, covering an area the size of 10 football fields, an almost solid mass of intricately fitted stone blocks, each weighing 2.5 to 10 tons. Enough stone to build 35 Empire State Buildings with several tons left over. Its alignment to true north is almost perfect, and the precision of its construction has never been duplicated.
But could the Egyptians of over 4,000 years ago have built such a magnificent structure? Or should we look for a more advanced civilization behind the pyramids?
The Greek historian Herodotus established the traditional view when he visited Egypt in the 5th century BC and wrote that Egyptian crews of 100,000 men, replaced every 3 months, built the Great Pyramid in 20 years. But is that possible?
To build the Great Pyramid in 20 years, as some archaeologists claim, would have meant setting one of those huge stones every 3.5 minutes, 24 hours a day. That would require a technology we don't have today.
But getting the stones in place was only part of the problem. How did they manage to get these massive stones from the quarries to the building site?
There is a widespread general belief, which Hollywood has helped to promote, that hundreds of thousands of slaves were used to build the pyramids. Nothing could be further from the truth.
The Egyptians of the 4th dynasty were neither a formidable military nation nor a very aggressive one. But even if they were, there were not enough potential slaves within a 5,000-mile radius to have supplied the workforce needed.
But if there was not enough manpower available, how could the work have been done? Even if the builders used some kind of clever machinery to help them get the great blocks into place, Egyptologists still disagree on what kind of device that could have been.
The generally accepted academic viewpoints are divided equally between the rollers and the rampers. These two theories are being taught in the schools right now as facts, when they're not even substantial theories.
With the Ramper School of Egyptology, we are asked to believe that a mile-long ramp was built, rising in slope as the pyramid increased in height. Actually, it would have required more effort to build the ramp than to build the pyramid itself. There would have been some 6 billion pounds of construction garbage to get rid of afterward.
If the ramp theory is discredited, the remaining explanation is that the blocks were rolled on logs. But does that theory survive close scrutiny?
Moving a given stone in this manner can be demonstrated, but some rather obvious consideration should have dispelled this notion long ago. The only trees available in ancient Egypt were date palms, and as a food source, it's unlikely they would have been cut down. Importing logs would have required more shipping than Egypt has ever possessed in its entire history, just to transport the 25 million trees needed.
Next, it's virtually impossible to roll a log on stone chip roads. But even if they could be rolled, the great weight of the stones would have crushed the logs to pulp within a very short distance.
However the Great Pyramid was built, one thing seems certain. Tremendous power of some sort had to be employed. Since the ancient Egyptians, so far as we know, were dependent solely on muscle power, and that seems insufficient to the purpose, what was the force that put all those gigantic stone blocks so carefully into place?
And keep our minds open to perhaps at some point learning that this is a very real possibility, that other civilizations, other beings, maybe perhaps from other planets, solar systems, or galaxies, assisted the Egyptians in the construction of the pyramids.
Supposing that some traveling race from another world did in fact build the pyramids, did they leave any clues as to the purpose of these structures? Some experts say the answer lies in the foundation and orientation of the Great Pyramid.
It's doubtful that ancient Egyptians had any knowledge of modern geology, and without this science, it's inconceivable that a structure this size could be built which would not crumble from lack of a proper foundation. Normally, it would just sink slowly into the ground. In modern construction, engineers find a settling rate of 6 inches in 100 years acceptable for office buildings. In 5,000 years, the Great Pyramid, weighing 14 billion pounds, has settled less than 1/2 inch.
This engineering marvel does suggest that whoever built the pyramids not only intended for the structures to remain as they were for millennia, but knew how to achieve that goal. And as engineers now tell us, they also knew how to keep the 4 sides of that giant edifice in almost perfect alignment.
In modern construction, if the builders could maintain each side of the 756-foot wall within 6 inches of being perfectly straight, then it would be a tremendous accomplishment. But the Great Pyramid is only off of straight alignment by approximately 1/4 of an inch. That's totally impossible to duplicate in today's modern construction field.
We know that whoever constructed the Great Pyramid at Giza built it so that it would last a long, long time. Archaeologists tell us that the structure was originally covered with a protective stone coating, making the sides perfectly flat and smooth. That outer surface was broken apart and used as building materials during the construction of the city of Cairo, but the pyramids themselves still remain unharmed. And we've already heard how the pyramid is unique among all buildings on Earth in its refusal to settle into the ground, as other giant monuments inevitably must. Apparently, whoever built the pyramid wanted it to be left exactly as it was. But why? What was its purpose? And was its preservation important because they planned to use it again someday? In the early 1950s, translation was begun on a vast library of cuneiform tablets that had been discovered many years earlier in the ruins of the Library of Nineveh, the oldest written record known to science. One passage of the text seems to describe the pyramids of Egypt. Sumerian texts are believed to be over 10,000 years old, 6,000 years older than the Egyptians who were supposed to have built the pyramids. But if the Sumerian translation is accurate, the pyramids were already there before the first pharaoh was born. If all of this is true, then these ancient tablets may hold the answer to the true purpose of the pyramids. Dr. Zechariah Sitchin has spent years studying the mysteries of these Sumerian writings.
Based on evidence provided by Sumerian texts, it appears that the Giza pyramids were built as beacons by extraterrestrials as part of a landing corridor ending at a spaceport in the Sinai Desert.
An intriguing and exotic theory. But how could the pyramids be of use to travelers from another world? After all, as large as they are not visible from outer space.
Some people suggested there is a vortex of energy coming out of the great apex of the pyramid, and that it actually expands in diameter as you go higher above the pyramid.
But for this theory to be credible, the pyramids would have to radiate energy, which an ordinary pile of stone simply does not do. But are the pyramids different in this way?
The pyramids are essentially crystalline in structure, and therefore highly receptive to radio-like energy waves or even cosmic microwaves. The Great Pyramid at Giza, with its 5 granite slabs above the king's chamber, are what the ancient Egyptians called spirit stones, and they could have been a massive receiver-transmitter tuned to some distant part of the universe of which we are still ignorant.
There's a vortex of energy emanating from the apex of the pyramid, which actually expands in diameter as it rises higher and higher into the heavens. A simple example of this emanating apex energy was first demonstrated by British inventor Sir W. Siemens. When he drank from the wine bottle he brought along, he experienced a slight shock as the bottle touched his lips. The electrical activity intrigued him so much that he took a wet newspaper, wrapped it around the bottle, converting it into a crude electrical accumulator, which most high school science students would recognize as a Leyden jar. Although we don't know why or how, the Great Pyramid seems to be an accumulator of energies.
The only person of record, of authority, who still stands behind the assertion that there was radioactive sand was Dr. Ibram Nawawi, who gave in 1987 a discussion at an archaeological conference in Tennessee where a friend of mine, another archaeologist, literally heard him say with his own lips that they had found highly radioactive sand in the Great Pyramid. This does not compute as a low-tech structure, but something much, much more intriguing.
So might not the pyramids have been exactly what the ancient Sumerian texts seem to claim? A sort of cosmic lighthouse for passing space travelers? As incredible as this may sound, it does seem to be the first explanation of the Great Pyramids that truly covers all the facts of its amazing construction, placement, and design. But is there any other evidence that the builders of these remarkable edifices were from outer space? These same Sumerian texts also refer to the Earth as the seventh planet.